Welcome to FMA Talk Live. I am your host, Dr. Tim, and this is my co-host. Actually, I don't know who to talk to. I got two guys here.
We gotta give credit where it's due here. I am the official backup.
Yeah, okay, there we go. Okay. You are the pitch hitter when we need one. There we go. So, okay, so Dean Franco along with PG Ty. Oh wow, what you got going there, Ty? Your byline's all blip, 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 blip.
That's for this thing. I'm doing the push-up challenge.
Oh, the St. Jude thing. Ah, there we go.
Yeah.
St. Jude.
Do push-ups all month long to raise funds. So that's the link for that.
All right. So this is Reuniting Blades. Guro Dean Franco is back on the show because the three of us haven't been on the show together in a while. Listen, for those who are watching, please let us know where you're logging in from. You know, sometimes it doesn't allow the name of the person. So, hey, this is Tim from wherever. And by the way, I'm Tim from Buffalo. So we're going to hop right in. There's a lot of things going on. I'm actually going to England Wednesday. So I'm going to be there for a week. A couple things going on. So with all the prep, we don't have the normal time that we do. So I'm going to hop right in. I'm going to hit us up with the rant of the day. Then I'm going to hit what the next episode is going to be. And then we're going to talk about Dean Franco and a whole bunch of stuff. So basically my rant, it happened again. I really get sick of people who don't listen. They hear what they want to hear. They don't hear what's said. And this is real simple. If you hear something that you don't like or agree with, you should ask for clarification before judging to make sure you got it. Once again, I made the comment of, here we go, we need to get the F out of FMA. And someone started to read me the riot act saying that, how dare you sterilize the art and make it a generic martial art? What I'm really saying is most people doing Filipino martial arts don't know how to do this as a business, are scared to do it as a business, have no knowledge to doing this, and they're using excuse for failure that, oh, well, how can we have a professional school where Filipino martial artists, which is ridiculous. Any martial art can be done on a professional level. We know the martial artists can do it because look at Remy Pracis, Bobby Tabuada. You know, people of that level, that magnitude, made careers out of teaching martial arts. And to say that we cannot have a full-time professional Filipino martial arts school just shows that you're scared or uneducated. So either pony up or get the education. But the big thing here is that someone listened and they only heard what they wanted to hear. So I'm going to give an example of why I like to verify things. So I'm not sure if it was you, Dean, or Paulo. Someone had an episode about a Pikiti Tertia guy up in Canada. Was that you visiting up there? And we talked about there's a difference thing in nomenclature that I watched the video and they talked about reverse angles.
Okay. Sounds like Paulo.
Okay. So the gentleman was talking about reverse angles. Now, when I train or hang out with another person from another system, I will ask them, what do you mean by that? Because what to me, what makes sense is not the definition that they gave. So the definition, and I'm glad they gave the definition so I didn't have to ask. It was like great because it was a pre-recorded video. So, and I think this is a Pikiti Tertia thing, and the nomenclature doesn't make sense to me the way I think of things. So what they said was the reverse angle was, say, a number 1 from the number 2 side. Right. So I go here and pop it like that. Now, to me, when you say do an angle in reverse, I'm taking the reverse path.
They do that though. And the only reason I know that is just by the number of Pikiti guys I've had on, where it's one, you're reverse. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, I know. So to me, and this comes from another realm of fighting that I used to do, we called it an offside shot. So you would do the number one shot from the offside. To me, that makes a lot more sense. And I learned it long before I had ever really did a deep dive of hanging out with Pikiti people. And like I said, if you sit there and say, show me an angle in reverse, that just means to me it's going in the reverse direction.
Yeah.
So, and when we talk about third hand principle, I know Pikiti uses third hand principle. I use the same term, but I use it for something different. And when I teach it and refer to it, I make sure there's other reasons, other uses of this term. This is how we use this term, so we're all on the same page. Remember, some people call same things by different names. So, or use the same term but have complete different meanings. So whenever we're training and teaching, we should always ask for verification. And I apply this here. And when someone says something I don't like, I will sit there and say, hey, can you clarify? So I make sure that it may not be the way I use it, but I want to make sure that we're on the same page so I understand. And possibly sometimes when I ask questions in a seminar, I'm asking for the other participants, not for myself. Understand it. Possibly sometimes when I ask. Oh, I'm getting that feedback. All right. So right off the bat, Thales from Brazil.
Hey, Dallas.
Hello. How you doing? Which he is going to be our feature instructor on the World Modernist Alliance website this month. So if you haven't, you can check out the blog. Although Thursday it will officially drop on a post. We have Brett Reese from Kentucky. Brett, how you doing, sir? Oblique or off center line. Okay. And this is why we ask questions to make sure we're all on that same page. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Which doesn't, and I gotta admit, a lot of times it's kind of scary for some people to sit there and say, I don't know what you're talking about, because people will judge you and say, you don't know what the hell you're talking about.
What do you mean you don't know that?
Well, I mean, listen, I pay a lot of money for my business consulting. I mean, for the training I'm getting for business. So I'm the first to raise my hand up, and they say, well, don't you know this? I go, I think I know this, but I want to make sure. And for the money I'm investing in my education, I'm making sure I'm not going to waste $12K a year to assume. And Assy, you and me, we know that one. All right. Here we go. That's a mouthful. Do you get his name there?
Jacinto Rogel Francisco Cantara. I don't know.
Uga, I watch from the Philippines. Hey, brother. Oh, from Kuntao.
Oh, nice.
Looking forward to seeing you guys, hopefully in the future. Well, we'll talk about that. And what's the third leg principle? We can get into that, but there's a rating on that. This show doesn't have that rating privilege.
That's
a fans only page. We have to go talk about that. FMA Talk, fans only.
He's I'll discipline him later. No, just he's funny.
Well, that's your guy?
He's really funny though. Yeah.
Well, no, I would say you fit right in. Come on back as often as you want.
Yeah, actually, you need to bring yeah.
So my thing here is, listen, people in general talk a lot. They say things, and sometimes people get butthurt without asking for clarification. And once again, when I made the comment about get the F out, the Filipino out of there, it's about stop using the fact that we do Filipino martial arts and use that as a crutch for failure. And listen, I get it. If you do systems that do not have open hand combatives, it's very challenging. You can do Serrata or Balintwalk, and there's other arts. I mean, hell, think Tapato, which is very hit. I mean, but you look at modern Kombatan, Dulce Pares, three very well-known systems that punch, kick, lock, throw, and do it all. Now, I don't know every other system out there, so it's kind of hard for me to say what other systems could do this, I think what I'm going to probably end up doing is a FMA Business Summit weekend to talk about this, as well as educate people and help people with our Panantukan program that need open hand combatives that don't have it and want to offer a full-time program. So there's my rant of the day. The next episode, we're going to be off next week because I'm in England. Cheerio, England, pip, pip, cheerio, and all that rot. All the Brits will be like, terrible. Never do that again, Hartman. But on the 21st, we're going to be doing a sequel. We did a show about the art within your art. So now we're going to do Modernistas as standalone art. Actually, I released a blog post today about this, and actually, the Filipinos were actually sharing it, which was great. I loved it. Maddie, the Maddie's Martial Art Tappy Tappy International actually reposted, which was great. And I talked about how modernity should be a standalone. There's a lot of Filipino martial arts that have what it takes, that is just as much as karate and taekwondo, and are treated as second or third hand citizens. We've got everything. We need to do this. We need to sit there and, people talked about the art within your art, as in, it was an add-on, or Tappy Tappy is the heart of the art. I don't want to learn Tappy Tappy. I don't want to learn just Tappy Tappy. I want to learn the entire art. And actually, wait a minute. I did learn the entire art along with my co-host. That would be not Dean. That would be the other co-host. The pitch hitter. He's done a little other stuff. So
I'm technically the backup. Yeah.
There we go. The backup. So Mr. Grandmaster Unyo, how you doing? Everyone,
Awesome. Very cool.
God bless. More power to your show. And speaking of which, tomorrow, if you get a chance, watch Dean's show.
Yes.
Because they're going to talk. They're going to have Rich Parsons on the show, and Dan Anderson, and we're going to talk about the gray areas of modern Ernest. Not the gray matter. That's a different thing. That's a whole
gray hairs.
The gray hairs. Yeah. Well,
actually, can I just say one?
Can Dan really do that? He's got no hair.
Can I just say one thing on that?
On which?
I want to. No, I just want to make a quick statement about tomorrow night's show.
Okay.
Because some people ask, why the gray area. The gray area just came out. It was just an incidental statement I made on your show. So if people want some context, they might benefit watching your show when we kind of digressed and got in that area before they go on tomorrow. But again, the gray area, it was just simply that something just came out of me, and then kind of Rich said, yes, there are some areas that are gray. So That's all. I don't want to go down rabbit hole. But
okay, so Carlito Lana. Okay, so says hello to Grandmaster Unyo, and then
as well.
And then Frank Musto, looking forward to training with you in England, sir. All right, great. Looking forward to it. So I'll be doing a seminar this Sunday at the Calling. Listen, and let me just back up. So Ty wasn't here. He was working, and we decided to have a show anyways because it turned out to be the day of my 35th anniversary as a modern Ernest black belt. To the day. July is a big month for me, good, bad, and indifferent. It's when I first became a black belt. It's most of my black belt promotions. It's when I became a Datu, and was the last camp that Remy taught in Michigan before he was diagnosed. It's when I started my Blintwalk training. It's when my teacher in Blintwalk passed away. There's a lot of different things going on. So we talked about this, and it got sidetracked because that's what we do. Because we're like, squirrel. Because we have the attention spans of a gnat. And we end up talking more about modern East history than my 35th anniversary. I think maybe 3% of the show was my 35th anniversary. And the will got brought up, and I shared the will. And when the comment Dean made was, this puts a lot of things in better perspective, because in other shows, is that a beer? He's drinking beer. Okay.
All right.
Didn't bring enough for all of us here. But
so I have to send you a virtual one. Yes. Prior
to that, Dean had not heard anything about the will, heard all these arguments and all this other stuff. And then that put things in much better. It cleared up some of the gray areas. And then someone heard the show and reached out to Dean about, well, let's do this. So, and that's what tomorrow night's show is. I'm looking forward to hearing what my good friend Rich. He's great. He's lived a lot of the stuff that's going on. And he's a guy that he doesn't care if you're your friend. He's going to talk about the truth. And the truth is the truth. And the thing here is, when we talk about this stuff and people get butthurt, part of it is they're butthurt about the truth, and they don't want to admit what the truth is. I don't like it. Ty's on my I was one of the board members of my organization, and every time I go, hey, by the way, what do you guys think about this? And I'm cringing for the answer. And once in a while I get the answer that I don't want to hear. But the thing here is, that's why I have them in place, to keep me in check. And it may not sway my decision, because I'm thinking of a bigger picture, because I'm making decisions for the organization. But at the end of the day, I just don't willy-nilly do stuff. I reach out to these guys, and when I ask for their opinion, I know at any time they're going to give me an answer that I'm not going to like, and it doesn't change our friendship. And here's the other thing. if I do, let's say, so Dean, let's say I say something that pisses you off.
Mm.
I own that moment. That moment in time is all about me. But if you stew on it for a year, that year is you.
Without bringing it up to you, and
Yeah, I mean, so if we have an issue, we need to clear the air immediately. If I
no
say
worries,
something
man.
to Ty, he's gonna pop me right up. He might even sit there. All right, he'll wait till after the show and go, "Dude, that was wrong." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm sorry. Don't let it happen again." Okay, all right, So, let me see here. So we have another one. I can't. How would you pronounce that?
Lakbay Sadiwa. I don't know, something like that.
Watching from the Philippines. My
Yeah.
goodness, we are really picking up more Philippines.
Magandang
Viewership.
umaga. More morning welcomes.
Maganda umaga, yes. All right. Go ahead. Let's see. Could be accepted that the gray area so spoken of often or so spoken of is correct area and should be pursued. Well, it depends on who's.
Tune in tomorrow.
Yeah, there we go. And then the three swords still.
Rodent, yes.
The three sides of every story. Yeah. The person's okay. The person side, the person side, and the person side. Yeah. Just the facts, man. Which is, listen, we always know there's three sides to every story: yours, mine, and the truth. And for every person you add in there, it adds another side. I think a lot of times the thing that we like about this show, and listen, when we do the Modern East show, we would love to have someone on representing the art within your art portion of things and that don't agree with us, because we like having a dialogue. We don't want to have a monologue. We want people asking questions. And sometimes people write in, and we really do appreciate that. And except for some of Roden's comments, I post everything up there. I might not do it right away because of the flow of the question, but all the questions go up there, unless it comes in after we shut the show down. Well, the thing here is, sometimes we're asking, what do you mean by that? And if someone was on the show with us, it'd be much easier for us to get into it, and then and he's not allowed on the show today. He got in trouble last time, actually, on his own.
My man Renee
got in trouble because he talked about all the things we said about keeping students, and he got a Facebook violation.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Remember the puppy comment?
Yeah, you told me about that. Yeah.
I'm like, come on. I mean, would that be a bot that would have done that, Ty?
Usually it's a bot, yeah.
Okay. So I get it, but okay, here you go.
But you can,
here we go.
You can, contest them.
Okay. And here, once again, anyone who wants to support the push-up challenge for St. Jude, here's the link right there.
Just to make it easier, sorry.
There we go. No. We want to do this. So we're always talking about what we're doing to help the community. And Brett Reese says 3 is a magic number. Yes, it is. It's also the loneliest number.
There you go.
So let's get into this. So we wanted to get together and hang out because we haven't done this in a while. And we really have a good time when the three of us are together.
Yeah, I have to admit, absolutely true.
Yeah, but I want to keep us somewhat on focus. So Dean,
yeah, I did get some questions in.
Program. So today we're going to talk about officially. I want to talk about, and I'm going to pull this up here. Actually, I don't want to misquote it. Look at my downloads. And my downloads don't have one. Oh, here we go. What I want to talk about is our your Blade Technologies program. And first, let's talk about this. We haven't had it in the show. I've seen you've been doing a lot of workshops. Let's talk about where you've been doing, and then we'll get into a deeper dive on what the Blade Technologies program is. How's that?
Sure. Yeah. So, a lot of attention, actually very overwhelming. I never made a public announcement. Matter of fact, while there's been some, advertising of Blade Tech as far as seminars in an FMA discussion, but I never made a public announcement, an FMA discussion, or on my own wall. Hey guys, I'm starting my own system, because I really wanted to see if it would take off without me doing that. Because again, I don't do this for a living. I just do it part-time.
Well,
So,
and the other thing too is listen, and I'm glad that you decided to, when we started talking about this, that you wanted to share it with us, because we're interviewing you. You're not bragging. We are interviewing you. I know who you are. I know that's not what you want to do. And that's been the nice thing. We've gone back and forth on the shows. Both shows have taken turns hosting things that we wanted to talk about, but we just didn't feel that it was comfortable on our own platform. So,
makes
you know,
sense.
and so, you know, to me, thank you for the honor and trusting us with your baby here, because in essence, you know, you're trusting us to do you right. What a mistake that was.
I know. I'd be like drooling like 20 minutes in.
Didn't think that one through, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, hey,
Yeah,
Eric, how you doing, brother?
Back to the recent activity again. So yeah, overwhelming. Nothing but accolades. So most recently went to Atlanta. You know, Arnold brought me down there for 2 days. Went wonderfully.
Arnold, who is that now, by the way?
Filipino.
I don't know if I know him.
He's pretty active in the Atlanta area. Some blend walk background under.
Is he under Bobby?
Ron Blicky.
Okay.
But at any rate, so he brought me down, went wonderfully. It was very kind of him to do, and that's been most recent. Before that, I did a couple online seminars. I just wanted to feel things out, and more importantly, wanted to see how I could convey information over online, what resonated, what was questionable, what to just keep for in person. So it was more of experimental in that regard. But those went again incredibly well. Feedback was great. And then before that, showed some of the stuff in New Hampshire when we were all there. And I'm trying to think if I'm missing anything far as where I've been doing. No, but a bunch of stuff coming up, and so that's kind of status quo as far as where I am currently.
Okay. So let me see here. And
oh
Charlotte,
my gosh. Yes, I knew I was forgetting something. Thank you, Rich. Yes, the second day, thank you, Rich, in Charlotte. First day, of course, was everybody got their 45 minutes or whatever. The second day, Sunday, was exclusively just for Blade Tech. So I did 2 hours, and basically it was on level 1, primarily on the defensive sets. Thank you again, Rich. Yeah, I don't know how I forgot that. So.
Was that an official part of the Blade show, or was that offsite?
No. It was at the same spot, same Alex's place, same spot. It just was on Sunday. Everybody else, as far as all the instructors, we were on Saturday.
Okay, all right. Without your humble attitude, this doesn't. I'm assuming they're talking to you, not us. I'm doing great. How about you? We're doing pretty good. Hoping to hear back from Mr. Blue. I sent a little note to Seafood Blue about. Hope he enjoyed the show, because he was a little apprehensive about doing it. It was very touching for us, because like Ty and I we're kind of cold to Remy being gone, because we talk about it all the time. And, Sifu actually started breaking down on this a little. And I'm like, and it was good to see someone 23 years later, 22 years later, who loved the man like we did. And we had to stop the show a couple times, give him a break, and that, what a person who is in that touch with his feelings, that doesn't give a damn what anyone else thinks. 2, it just, I get frustrated because I see a lot of stuff, what I consider a lot of egocentric bullshit, and this guy is just so honest and sharing. It was really great. Charlotte was another big Blade Tech seminar. So that was when you're over at Alex's, I'm assuming.
Correct. And so Alex was very kind to allow me Sunday just exclusively to focus on that. And the feedback again, even Alex, Rich thought I'll let Rich comment, but he thought I was just in my zone because those kind of was his exact words, but I'll let him say what he wants on that regard. Hey, Rich. See you tomorrow night.
Different Rich, not the same Rich.
Yeah, so again, yeah, that was a couple months ago, and then most recent again, to reiterate, was Atlanta. And there's definitely some stuff coming up. But again, it's been really big surprise. And the thing is, I don't want this, and my guys know this, the guys who know me, and like Rich, for instance, even a couple other guys that are ranked, Jay Fujimoto, even in Georgia too, Arnold and them, is that they know I want this intimate, I want this small, I don't want this prostitute, I don't want to rep in every state, or, I got some guy, I don't, that's the farthest thing removed, that's the farthest thing I want. I really want just capable folks who enjoy the material, who are propagated, but not where it gets, it gets out of control, and where there's a risk of, quality control and all that. That's the farthest thing I want. So very happy with the numbers right now, where it's going, and we'll see where it's going to go. But it's something that was asked of me to do over the last few years. A couple of guys would say, hey, how come you don't come on your own system? You have all this wonderful material from all these different systems you've been exposed to over the last couple of decades. And so finally, kind of last spring, I'm like, if I don't do this now, God knows when I'll do it. So I kind of, in 2 weeks, took out what was in here, kind of just put it on paper, and kind of made some levels. Yeah.
So let me just get caught up here. Then let's start doing the deep dive. So Craig Mason says hello from Sudbury, Ontario, and Renee goes, yeah, just like my don't give a damn. You're right. And Eric said it was awesome that we noticed as well. Yeah. Brett, here we go. You stated to ask any question, my brother, so I will ask. Is the weapon held in more formidable than hold on, I gotta I minimized the screen, so I was like, you stated that ask questions, brother, so I will ask, this is a weapon held more formidable than an empty hand?
I'm trying to make sure I'm understanding his question. Is a weapon held more yeah, most of the material is definitely kind of JKD like lead and all that. However, we do have configurations where we're going from the back. So my answer to that question would be yes.
Okay. So let's get into this. So you have a bunch of different blade programs you do. So your blade technology, so when I was doing blade, when I first started blade work, a friend of mine, Tim Murray, had me out and started asking me, hey, we need you to do seminar diplomas and stuff like that. So I just put an umbrella out there. Everything blade was my Manidaga program, hand and dagger. Okay. Which years later, it turns out Leo Gahe used the same term. I don't know who predated what, didn't care, because I had nothing to do with that. From then, I started more defining it. I split off a whole nother department, which is EDT, Edge Weapon Defensive Tactics, which is geared more unarmed against unarmed against untrained opponents, usually geared for law enforcement and self-defense. Then we also have the TUX, the Tactical Use of Stick and Knife program, which a friend of mine, Tim Murray, started, and I was, he's retired from doing martial arts publicly, and he gave me permission to carry on what we started with that. So blade technologies, is it of that kind of nature where it's the umbrella and then you're doing subdivisions, or is it a catch-all? Is it, where are we at here?
Yeah, so you could say it's kind of an umbrella term in that And the only reason why the umbrella term to be used is because under that, I do teach Piper and Medusa as separate components. However, as they're taught separately, there's also material from them that's extracted and in Blade Tech knife. So under the umbrella, you have 3 systems. You have Blade Tech, 4 systems actually. One I'm finishing up now. Blade Tech, Piper, Medusa, and there's going to be an empty hand aspect, which is almost done. But right for status quo, yeah, 3.
Okay. So then I'm going to say no, whatever that is. Lyman says hello from Maine. And then we got a hello from Tara Richardson, Maryland. So I'm getting some notifications here through my phone instead of being live. So why don't I check what these are? If you could take point, Mr. Botting.
Sure. Well,
PG
yeah, actually, I want to know. So if there was a core, I know some people have trained with you on this, but there's probably some core concepts that you focus on that sort of make it its own approach. So maybe let's start with those if we haven't done that. I don't think we've talked about that yet. So
yeah. So basically I have 6 triangles. So instead of just a geometric figure, they actually have substantial meaning and context. So the triangles establish context to the methodology, our what and how we apply it. Okay. So for instance, one triangle is egress, equalizer, ethical obligation. That's more on the defensive side. Then we have before, during, after, early, on time, late, recognition, reaction, recovery. What is your value system? Legally defensible, and my third. Hey, Eric, there's another student, Florida, and there. So again, 6 triangles again, which gives us direction, context, or methodology. Some of them are geared towards offense, some are geared towards offense, and some are kind of both offensively and defensively speaking. Blade Tech is also based on 4 areas of concentration. So when I was coming up with this, knife's always been my thing, from early days of Sayak, Atienza, coming up and all that. So one of the things I began to notice coming in, throughout the decades was some systems weren't addressing this, some were overly addressing this, and some they were addressing it, but maybe not a lot. And so I wanted to make this a comprehensive system. So we have the pre-violence, offense, defense, and when I say offense, defense, that means from standing to ground. Matter of fact, I just did a lawn course with Marco. Just on knife grappling. That was just yesterday, matter of fact. And lastly, post-violence. So again, we got the beforehand, offense, defense, and the aftermath. So there's material that's covered in there. Obviously, the heart of the system is in the offense and defense, you know what I mean? And that. But what I found a lot of systems don't deal really exclusively in the pre-violence. In other words, like how did they get there, or like what happened? Like how did this happen? Like, what were you not attentive to?
Right.
In there, and outside of ambush. And I want to clarify this too. Ambushes are tough. So, like somebody jumping out, and the only reason I'm bringing this up to establish some more context when I'm talking about. In other words, like I tell my students, if you look at the most hierarchy of our military SEALs, when they get ambushed, they die. So when you get ambushed, depending on that first shot is, or what it is that first hits you, I mean, your recovery might just be really tough or non-existent. So ambushes are tough. So I really go right up to there and all that. There's some material I do depending on the initial strike where the ambush went, but the least what I cover. But back to where I was talking about the pre-violence, I saw a lot of systems just not really addressing it. Like, again, how did this happen? Like, how did they get? I mean, like, what were you not attentive to? Were you on somebody's radar when you walked out and somebody's paying attention to you normally that probably shouldn't be? Right. And so and when I say by addressing that area, I'm not just saying verbally. I actually have my students, we do mock trials or mock drills, scenarios, if you will. So they will be done first individually, one-on-one, and then we will incorporate ones where you have your family members. Now, hence getting into egress, equalizer, ethical obligation, that being the family. You obviously can't just run and leave them, for instance. So hence the importance on the pre-violence. Then, of course, offense, defense. You know what I mean? So somebody's question should be, well, if most attacks are against empty hand, why do you have sparring and dueling? And the reason being is because, in my opinion, if you're going to defend against something, you should have, as much as any possible, a thorough understanding of the offense. And the sparring and dueling is going to give you that. It's going to build on your perception and reaction, your timing, your cadence, your distance management, all the above. And so I firmly believe that, in order to, as far as defense, especially with knife. And so that's why we have that in there. And again, there's all-on sparring. There's specific sparring to the levels, depending on what level you're in. And there's very isolating sparring, depending on like what we're working on or what the student maybe need to improve upon, a particular skill set or an attribute that he wants to enhance or that I feel he needs to enhance. So that's, in a nutshell, 4 areas, of that we address.
You talked a fair bit about sparring. So one of the things that just popped in my head while you were doing that, a lot of people look at it differently. Like some people look at it as pressure. Some people look at it as a laboratory. Some people look at it as a quiz, right? That you can go back and analyze your work. I imagine you probably employed some of all those, but can you talk about that a little bit more?
All the above, in my opinion. I mean, one, stress inoculation. In other words, like, that has to be introduced, but introduce gradually where it wasn't so overwhelming a student. It was such a bad experience and they don't come back. You know what I mean? So that being introduced gradually, particularly on the defensive end, you know what I mean? But again, gradual increments. So as far as sparring, definitely the quote unquote, the science lab, pressure testing, all those overused phrases now. But obviously relevant still in that. So those are very relevant in blade tech. But I really go deep and isolate into like, not so much the what, the where, when, why, and how. You know what I mean? Okay, you got hit in the hand. It's not really the what that matters. Doesn't matter if it was a thrust. Doesn't matter if it was an open and close. Why, where, when, and how. So I go over that with them so they can start to think about like why that happened. So next time they can hopefully build on that and improve upon that situation, whatever it was specifically. So there's a lot of that like insight. I definitely feel my students, or if I'm right with them moving, I'll give them feedback, you know what I mean, depending what we're working on. But I hopefully that answers.
No, that's interesting. I expected kind of, that interplay and that synthesis of a lot of different ideas as you use it. I think that's what it's for too. So it's we're on the same page there. But I have a simpler question too. So with your blade tech, is there a range of size weapons? I know a lot of people like a nice small weapon for concealment, for use, for practicality. Some people like a big old weapon because I like to chop things off. Is this suitable for? Well, what's your preference, and what's this more suitable or targeted for?
Yeah, so definitely dealing all sizes. Anything from, so in other words, if you look at statistically, what are the most common knife attacks? They're done with the household steak knife. You know what I mean? In there. And so, so we definitely look at that. Then we look at your legal 4-inch folder. You know what I mean? We definitely address weapons of opportunity and ones that, hey, if you don't get the knife out, okay, and you got it out, you always know that you can use this. You don't have to deploy a box cutter. Right. We're just getting in, and which is absolutely miserable as far as defense against. Yep. Miserable, because you can't disarm the damn things because there's not a lever. Miserable.
You got to break those blades off, hopefully.
It's miserable.
Even then,
if anybody's done it with full intensity and resistance, it's miserable. But back to your question, and the reason being is, so for instance, an example on sewing machine, I tell my guys to naturally always put in the default system of hollowing out, and the reason being is if it's a 12-inch banger and you're just used to just doing this. 4-inch,
right?
So I always tell them, like, always put that in the default system. So God forbid if it was a longer weapon, you know. So so definitely address all of it.
Nice. It was funny. Hollowing out just came up this weekend when I was training. Bobby was in town, so I was supporting him. Came up and had a really neat effect on some of the openings that creating space. It's counterintuitive, right? Hollowing out there created more space for you to move on the upper side, which was strange. It was a good reminder. I put that in my notes. But anyway, sorry, just sparking off of that. Got anything else jumping into your head, Tim?
Well, I mean, I personally I like hearing what I'm hearing, because, you know, the problem I have with a lot of the Filipino martial arts, well, actually anyone that teaches weapons, I love when people teach self-defense and then they don't teach the use of the tool. How can you defend, you know? So I teach a fitness kickboxing class, and I have some people that go to a Krav club, and I ask them, you know, we're doing stick and knife defense, let alone gun defense. And I go, well, do you do any training with those tools? Oh no, you're purely self-defense. I go, I think that's very irresponsible. How do you defend against a weapon that you've never trained? And they're looking at me like, well, what do you mean? I mean, but we're self-defense. I go, do you teach punching and kicking? Yeah, we learn that first. And then we learn how to defend against that. So why wouldn't you take that same approach to every weapon set out there? So hearing this, see now, because I'm watching a lot of I'm hearing what you're saying, and I've watched what you've done. Obviously, when we watch a video online, it is a snapshot of a bigger picture, and there's no dialogue to go with it, and people will make these judgments. The thing I've seen a lot as of lately is everyone's doing this wannabe John Wick nonsense, training all this dueling fighting or whatever with no context of what it's for. Now, we do a lot of sparring in my club, but like all the things you talked about, range, distance, you know, we have distancing, timing, how to bridge the gap. Okay, then how did you get in? And it's not about sparring, it's about all the stuff that you did with it. I mean, I love my weapon training, but more often than not, your opponent is going to be armed and you're not going to be armed. Or you won't be able to deploy because ambush, like you said, you know, people attack from a position of superiority, strength, size, numbers, armament. They don't want a straight up fight.
Right.
So, I'm just going to do this. And then why would I train to pull a knife every single time? Because not every situation merits that lethal response. If you pull out a knife, I'm not pulling my knife. You know what I'm going to pull? I'm going to go on you as fast as I can, because I may not be able to deploy a tool before you bridge the gap and finish the job.
Yep.
All right.
Which is another
So
triangle.
I'm really digging what you're saying, my friend.
Yep.
Oh, thank you. Another triangle: opportunity, threat, obstruction. There's either opportunity, there's threat, or there's obstruction, right? So yeah, in other words, we get into that heavily with equalizer, in other words, some of the mock stuff I'll do is, okay, guys coming up and attacking, right? So you got to, now you may want to just grab your equalizer because it's the thing you want to do, but you didn't deal with the threat. So now you're just getting poked because they're there. And you see in the gun community a lot, you know what I mean? They're trying to access their gun and they're just getting mauled, right? So we go over that a lot, that whole, like, knowing when you got to create distance, if you're going for a draw or whatever, but you dealt with the threat first. The other thing is we do, like for instance, arm drag, you know, where I do mock scenarios. Okay, so you attack, I get you, I arm drag you, but we also, if you got loved ones, you sure that's the best thing to do? Are you arm dragging them into your loved ones? Did you think about this? Did you work at? Did you arm drag them? Now you're creating a hostage situation because you didn't lock them down and create the egress for your loved ones. So all this stuff is played out. So God forbid my students go in a parking garage one night and chaos and this happens. And at least I know, like, I gave them the best information I possibly could, and hopefully they retained it. They played it out as much as humanly possible with their family, which is a whole nother thing. Not to digress here or jump, but do you have a plan with your family? You know what I mean? Like when you're out, do you have a plan with your loved ones? And you'd be surprised. Like, I don't think a lot of people do or think about that. You know what I mean? But all that's inclusive, right? In level one, matter of fact, in these mock scenarios, you know?
Well, you definitely need to worry about that. During COVID, on more than one occasion, I was misidentified as a law enforcement officer, and people followed me into a parking lot, and I got out of the car, and I actually left the car to make sure ground zero wasn't where Janice was. You know, She, then, we obviously, after the postal situation, people got in my face, didn't cross a certain distance. I was armed, made a comment, didn't care I was a cop, which really made me wonder if I was being targeted. All this stuff went sideways. And I did the right thing. I didn't have to touch the person. And I called the police for an incident report afterwards in case this was to progress.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people say, well, why didn't you kick the guy's ass? I go, because it didn't need to be kicked, because he stopped. He went around part of the car, stopped dead, and that's it. Listen, every time we lay hands on someone, armed or unarmed, it is a life-altering circumstance, situation. I don't want, as much as I want to punch people in the throat, because that's what we want to do at times, or other parts of the body. It's not worth it.
You touched on part of that too. As you say, you touched on part of that too, right? If he wanted to get an altercation, you can almost guarantee he's not coming into it as a fair fight. If it's a fair fight, it's not a fight; it's a competition.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And to kind of piggyback off what Doctor was saying, I mean, that's what I'm trying. Moral compass, value system, legally defensible. Can you live with what you did? Your value system, is it legally defensible?
Hey, everyone says I'd rather be in prison than a morgue. You know what? I don't want the next 30 seconds of my life to affect the next 30 years. So you want to call me a pussy, a pansy, or whatever? By all means, call me every name in the book. Because at the end of the day, I'm not going to go to jail because I laid hands on somebody. Now, and then once again, is it really worth it? A friend of mine and his buddy were at a bar in Canada. They got jumped when they left. His friend got cold cocked, knocked him out, hit his head on the ground. It killed him.
I know. That's the Tim on West Coast there, Sifu. You see that video circulating around that he talks about the JKD guy, Tim Tackett. Same thing. Guy, upstanding citizen, no record at all. Like this perfect young man goes outside, altercation, hits the guy falls back, hits his head, dead, and this guy's life is just ruined over like just something stupid. Like, you know what I mean? And so I go over that with my students. And matter of fact, what I tell my students is, outside of you protecting your loved ones or somebody breaking into the threshold of your house, you got to really think about, like what you're doing and what you're pulling. Like, I don't carry. Everybody says, what do you mean you don't carry? I don't carry. I don't carry unless I'm going somewhere and my kids are with me. By myself, I don't carry. That's my personal choice. I'm not saying people should or shouldn't do that.
We're talking blade, firearm, both?
Just blade.
Okay. So like I carry a knife all the time because that's what I do, because I've been grown up with a knife, but I pat myself to know where the knife is so it doesn't fall out. I've laid hands on people while being armed because I've trained to engage unarmed first. So I don't mind carrying, but the thing here is all my disarming revolves around the weapon going away from me, because think about this. How many times in class we take a weapon away and we slice them and dice them? It's just motor memory. And it's not to say that we're bad people.
You just hit on something like really, really important also that is like, again, man, when you get that thing disarmed and you've been using the Dooney's templates on the body, whatever system you come from, and you're just going to turn that off after 20 years of doing it?
No. We do what we train.
Yeah. And so I tell my guys, man, it's okay to take them, maybe poke them in the leg, the minister maybe coming after you, and get out of there. Nobody said, you don't need to go doing a body template,
so here's the thing I saw. The guy that used to be on the show, he went on the other show. He went on that other show. The kid, the guy you went out and visited his house.
Brian.
I saw him on that other show.
Correct.
And they had this women doing stuff, and she's snapping necks and doing all this other stuff. I'm thinking, you just did a podcast. Yeah. Now you're teaching people to do all this stuff. Yeah. How can you defend yourself? I mean, think about this. Who do you think has to protect themselves more than anyone else in the world when it comes to using their martial arts? Who do you think has got the biggest target on their back today?
Oh, women. I mean, yeah.
No. Paulo Rubio.
Oh, I thought you were talking about a.
Yeah, no. Think about it. Who's got the biggest target on his back? Because he does one thing to somebody.
Yeah.
He lays hands to one person.
Oh, based on yeah.
He is going to be sued up the wazoo.
Yeah, I did. The show you're referencing, I didn't see it. I can't give an opinion on the show.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It just.
Somebody told me about it and said, based on what the woman was doing. Again, this is not coming.
I don't
from
think
me.
they could pull off what they were teaching, but it
that's
doesn't
kind
matter.
of what I
They're
heard.
snapping necks.
Yeah, again, I didn't watch it, so I can't say for certain, and I certainly don't want to do that. But the feedback I got parallels what you just said, that there's no way that stuff was being pulled.
So when everyone is doing all these things, and you're doing all these videos of this, that, and the other thing, doing covert draws, throwing stuff up in the air and stabbing in the air, doing all this stuff of that nature, you may want to reconsider if you think that you might lay hands on somebody.
Yeah,
because the thing here is,
I know
you don't have to worry about this because it's already out there.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's a really tricky area, I tell you, these days. What to do and what not to do. I just tell my students, common sense. You know what I mean? I said, tap into your, you know what I mean? You're grown men. I don't want to tell you what to do or not to do, but just common sense. But, I got really good guys, really good, responsible guys. I really do. Jay Fujimoto, Eric O'Brien, Arnold, Rich Mager here. I mean, a couple other guys, Joe Lennon. I mean, really, and guys in Connecticut, Nelson, and really good, solid guys. I mean, they're not going to do stuff. And that's another thing too, man, with this, you know what I mean? Not to get off topic, but screening, you know what I mean? When you're teaching, like I predominantly teach edge weapons. Yes, I teach KI, but predominantly it's knife. Man, you gotta, who are you taking? I'm very fortunate. Everybody that I have is I kind of know them. You know what I mean? Like they were students, and maybe in their system I was aware of. But the bottom line is that I knew who they were. I had some background on them, and to me that's very important. You know what I mean? Like, and particularly when you get into the systems of, like when you get into systems like Piper and Medusa, like, you know what I mean? Like very tactic based, offensive based systems, no defense. The offense is the defense. And, you really got to know who you're teaching and who you're talking to. And so screening is not a bad thing.
No, you keep mentioning those names. So I don't know if you knew this, I actually know Jay. And of course, I know Joe.
Jay's they're both great guys.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah. But I met Jay out when I was visiting your other teacher.
I love Jay. He's just such a,
and Kurt says
not
hello.
remember me, but he was a good guy. Yeah.
Jay,
Fight House Talks podcast. No problem with the little shout out there, Kurt.
Yeah.
Hello from Mr. Ventura.
Maynard, yeah.
Okay.
And then Brett says, I don't think he has not thought that he is a day owl. What was it? I don't think he has not thought of that day. He is the day owl. Oh, okay. Renee, screen your students and your teachers.
Yeah, right. They should be screening me too. Absolutely.
We
forgot to do that, Tim. We forgot to screen against Dean.
Well, we let both Dean and Renee on the show, so I don't know how we did that.
How did that happen? Right?
That went all sideways. Okay. Yeah, Kurt, I remember the podcast. Thanks for sending it to me, but it was different, to say the least.
I got a couple questions from, speaking of Joe Lennon, and because he's such a good guy, I told him I would get to them. All right, Joe. Coming up, Joe. Where are they?
He sent you questions?
Joe did, yeah.
Oh no! Well, wait a minute. Why are you sending you questions, not us? Because we're the ones interviewing.
Oh, he did. He was just late. Yeah. It was innocent.
Joe is always thinking.
Innocent mistake. He cannot be held accountable.
Bastard.
Can you talk about protecting your loved one? Yeah, here. Okay, so he's got a couple questions. Here's one question. We kind of touched on it already about the whole. In other words, what I have is hierarchy of priorities, and under that hierarchy of priorities is when we look at the egress, equalizer, ethical obligation. On the defensive side, that triangle. So his question is, could you talk about protecting loved ones while being threatened by a perp with a knife? Okay, and not throwing perp. Yeah, exactly. So kind of touch on this, like for example, the arm drag, the example I was giving. So let's just say I'm in a parking garage. I got my family here, and seeing somebody who's paying particular attention to us that normally shouldn't be, and kind of getting the heebie-jeebies about this guy. And of course, he starts to intersect. So Lori and Larry is now becoming intersecting Negan, right? And coming through. So having a plan with my family, they would know that they would immediately kind of shift off in a different direction, getting her phone out, make a call. Well, I would, kind of deal with this guy, as assuming he was getting closer. And so, let me just make sure as far as the other question. Yeah, and again, having the plan and creating and again, I'm ethical obligation, me protecting my family, but creating the egress for them. So that's Joe's question there. Thanks, Joe. Good question. All right. Also, could you share your thoughts on what knife techniques and proper to put on social media? Tim was just talking about this. Yeah. Do you think there could be legal problems if you show offensive knife techniques and someone uses it and references your vids? That's a great question. He was just kind of Joe's question was just touching upon what you were talking about, Datu, as far as like what you're putting on social media. And if someone were to look at that, God forbid, go use it, and in court, it was referenced that it came from you, and they were able to look at your vids. So yeah, my answer to that, Joe, is I think we need to be responsible, and just again, I tell the guys common sense. You know what I mean? And I'm not gonna lie. In the past, I put up a couple vids that perhaps maybe I shouldn't have. I hold myself accountable to that. But I think it's something we definitely need to think about. And the bits of possible legal problems for sure. Absolutely. And what's going on here? Not you, Dean. I've seen people that have Hollywood ideas about knife defense. I like I said to Dean this week, when the blankety blank hits the fans, your training will save you. Or yeah, I mean, right. That's what's going to kick in what you've been doing, right? Absolutely. You're not going to pull it off on the spot, what you haven't trained, unless you're extremely lucky. Yeah, so those are Joe's questions, which and that was just making sure I'm not missing anything else. But yeah, sorry, you guys go. I'm your goon.
Yeah.
And so Eric,
listen, I've got an opinion. I'm very opinionated. I'll be the first to admit that.
No.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of teaching edge weapons openly. I like vetting. Yeah. We talked about vetting. We've talked about vetting. I use blade work to augment my attributes. I use them. I'm not teaching. I do teach an offensive blade program to certain individuals. But the thing here is, if we put stuff online, I don't think listen, if it's a sword, who cares? Who cares if it's a sword? Because we're not carrying swords. We see that stuff all the time. But when we put a pocket knife in someone's hand, it changes. And when we see stuff, people can replicate what we're doing.
No. I mean, you're seeing it. You look at like cops that are they're resisting arrest with criminals that are resisting arrest against police officers. You're seeing some doing MMA tactics. I mean, they're definitely you can pull off YouTube video, whatever, social media, and put it to use. Yeah, absolutely. Just making sure no other questions came from my guys. Okay. All right. Is he silent? He silenced himself.
Yes, because my four-legged child.
Okay. All right. Here's the thing. All right. Here's another big thing I think is really, and this is kind of where my frustration with FMA is. So I'll just bring up the question, if that's okay. Systems of relevance. Like, in other words, I see people that teach, and not all of them. I think some out there do a good job, or they at least try to, and they have integrity and they're honest, you know. But I guess my question is like, and I noticed this when I made this post, gosh, it's probably like 2 years ago in FMA discussion. And what I referenced was, it was a very generic post and basically a query. And what I said was, hey, is anybody looking at these systems? I mentioned Piper, Scuola Cordola, Argentine system, and I didn't know about Medusa then. I think it was those two. And some of them were kind of open, but there was a good chunk that just was resistant to like looking at these other systems. And I'm thinking like, man, like these systems are actually kind of relevant. And what I mean by that is, okay, there's prison attacks happening every day, regardless of the country, right? Latin America, they're carrying around, I mean, God's sakes, you know, machetes all around in there. And to me, I'm bringing this up because I really look at systems that where is this criminal activity currently taking place at a pretty high frequency with absolute criminal intent. Now, you got to remember something. Criminals are the ones that are sharpening their skills like every day. Survival, whatever, right? To get means to get what they want, right? I mean, don't think they're not training. And so I think it's really relevant to look at those systems, particularly in the edge weapon world. So that's why I looked at Piper closely, Medusa, and whatever else I think is relevant. And it's been extremely helpful to my students and myself for a more comprehensive system that I created. And I just urge the community, like, don't limit yourself. You know what I mean? Yes, I love FMA and that. However, though, doesn't mean FMA deals with everything the best or as far as the subject matter and all that. So that's kind of what I just want to say in that regard.
Well, let me play devil's advocate because I actually agree with you more, but I'm going to take the other side.
Sure.
We talk about you said that a lot of stuff's going on in South America. I would prioritize my research to what's relevant to where I live, to where I go, to where I do things. So I can understand when you talk about, well, things are done in South America all the time, blah, 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 blah. If it's not happening in our region, how relevant is to what we're doing, you know? So, I mean, when it comes to prioritizing, not saying that the search, you know, here's the problem. And then Chris, we have other Chris, what's up? As a thing here is the problem with the FMA industry is most people are not teaching relevant material.
That's kind of directly what I was saying.
You know, I mean, I know. I'm going to come out and say it my way. I go. The problem here is,
well, your show, but yeah, it better come from you.
We have such a rich variety of material, but no one's training for real day situations. And you're right. I'm calling you all out. Because it's listen, and I watch people. Listen, and Paulo's not the only guy who does this. You see, all these guys do this. Because everyone will point to Paulo. Yeah, you're talking about Paulo. No, I'm talking about the whole damn community. Because whatever Paulo did, everyone imitated online. When he was doing the covert draw, June Occidental did it. Then everybody else jumped on it and did the challenge. Did all this other stuff. Y'all were a bunch of followers. Here's the thing: how many people are okay? So I'm teaching in England. I'll be teaching at a Kempo group. Most of the clientele I teach are non-Filipino martial artists, which is great because they don't have these predetermined notions in their head. I go, why do we teach weapon-on-weapon training? We're talking modern-day application. Here's the thing. We already said it earlier today. Most likely your opponent's armed and you're not. Okay? So why would I start stick on stick? Because I'm going to use my stick training. Well, because ultimately we're not going to have a stick. Well, then why start stick on stick? Because we start equal. We start on equal terms. If I sit there and say, I'm going to swing sticks, knives, whatever, the opponent, like you talked about, sparring can be intimidating for beginners. Okay. Well, if I just say, okay, you're going to do unarmed defenses against weapons, I put a stick in your hand, how confident do you feel? I do this as a social experiment during my seminars. I'll take someone and go, hey, pick up that stick. Okay, you got to stay. I'm just Tim. I'm South Buffalo Tim here. Okay, South Buffalo Sam. How do you feel right now? You're armed and I'm not. I feel really good. Hold that thought. I pull out a stick because I just happen to have one on my back. You know, How do you feel now? You go, I'm not feeling that good right now. Remember, I'm not Datsu Tim. I'm just South Buffalo Sam. Okay. So we start, the way I look at it, we start two people equally armed because now you feel confident because you have your weapon. And as you build up technique, timing, physical attributes, and the most important one of all these, confidence in what you're doing. After I get that understanding down, I put my weapon down and they don't. And that's where I think but the thing here is we never see people get to that because they're all doing this fantasy John Wick, gently FMA dueling. That's not going to go. I mean, listen, I love my Balintawak, but come on, am I really going to stick to somebody? And I taught at an event where someone's talking about compound weapon trapping that happens in the streets. I'm like, are you a freaking moron?
I know. Okay, it has. I mean, here's the thing. Matter of fact, this came out in a recent show, and I'm trying to recall which show. It was fairly recent, and I think when the comments I made, I think FMA has gotten overcodified, and I think I was using knife as an example, but it has. Oof, that's not good to hear, Renee. But yeah, it has. We've gotten kind of getting, Steve Grody says the best, who I think is just.
Ty, I'll have you say the comments because Knucklehead keeps barking in the background.
Sure.
Okay. Steve Grody, just a hidden gem and treasure, in my opinion. And he's and one of the things he was telling me, he goes, yeah, it just seems like the more and more it's just farther and farther removed from like what happens out there. And, and he's just somebody that really resonates with me. And so what I try to do, I'm only bringing that up in reference to what I try to do. Like I try to be like, what's, potentially what's going to happen out there. But at the same time, giving the heavy dose offensively in offensive sets of the attribute development, perception, reaction, and I can honestly say it's helped them better on the defensive end because they're starting to get acuity in what they're looking at and what to look for, what to do, seeing coming, the trajectory and all that. And so I know it's working. So there's a very specific.
You tell them that ahead of time, right?
What's that?
You tell them that ahead of time.
No.
You talk about what you're doing at the moment that you're doing it.
Very little. At the end, I go to more details, so now they have a better understanding what I'm telling them because they did it. So
right, but I mean, you don't sit like. Okay, here's the thing too. So I know some people that we know said, "Well, why do things always have to work?" They don't have to work. But when we're training, we need to make sure that the person we're training understands the context of what we're doing. So if we're doing something for physical attributes, whether you tell them prior to doing it or post workout, somewhere in that equation, we have to talk about whether it is tactical, whether it is attribute development, whether it's position recognition or a study of movement. But if people are coming to you if we're doing this as a martial art, then none of this is what we're talking about. It's important. Okay. But if people are coming to learn how to defend themselves, we need to make sure that when we're doing different aspects of the art, including attribute development versus tactical training, that everyone needs to be on that same page. Now, we might just sit there, hey, I'm going to do this, and then afterwards say, Q&A, why do we just do this?
That's kind of a lot what I do. But,
there's nothing wrong with that. But you make the connection, though, right?
Who's in front of me? Is this somebody new or somebody who's been around, So that also kind of dictates how the approach I do.
But if I'm going to do something, like once in a while, I sit there, hey, guys, this is all Hollywood stuff right now. Now, we'll develop skills and attributes, but we're doing Hollywood, and sometimes Hollywood we just do it because it's fun. But I sat there and I said this because, like I said, there's been some people in the modern East world that make comments, why does everything have to work? It doesn't always have to work. But if people are coming to you to learn stuff that works and you don't tell them what is for skill development, what is for fun, and what is for tactical, you might have someone try to use something that is skill development only and try to protect themselves with it.
Yeah, which again, you kind of touched upon something indirectly, just being absolutely truthful what you're giving them. And in other words, with empty hand against knife, having the integrity to say, hey, look what I'm giving you. I would never tell you this is going to work 100%. I'm giving you what's, coming out at the highest percentage based on these circumstances and training and years, blah, 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 and that. And being honest to them while maintaining integrity. And I think that's a huge thing with specific regards to empty hand against knife. Now, knife on knife, but when you are teaching empty hand against knife, I think it's an ethical obligation that, you have at least tested this stuff out and draw some conclusions on the evidence, the empirical evidence that, was coming out at a high frequency or somewhat high frequency. To me, that's really, really important to me. I'm not sure what he wrote here. The best thief will teach you how to prepare, as the best fighter will teach you how to survive. These men may be your neighbors. Reminds it. Yeah. I mean, right? Remember?
And you don't know. Yeah. That's just like also finding hidden teachers, right? They may be a lot of those around. You just don't know.
Okay. Is a flashlight tactical or a stick picked up when it becomes tactical, or are you tactical? Well, there we go.
Too much tactical in there for me.
Too much tactical. The pen is the most dangerous big things out there. Lawyers that are expensive. Yeah.
Yeah.
And listen, I am. It annoys me because our industry hops on the fads, whatever they think they can get social media coverage on.
Views off. Yeah.
Oh look, I can get a lot of views on this. Okay. Yeah, but what are you doing? I mean, do you understand the repercussions of your actions? I don't think people think.
No, yeah. I mean, it's right. I mean, seeing FMA discussion and seeing all the content that comes in there, and if it doesn't break the rules or the guidelines, I don't say anything. But there's videos there I'm watching people doing, and I'm just like, well, okay, that's interesting.
Right.
But yeah, I just choose not to say anything. Otherwise, I'd be in there every day, which is 24/7, which is not doing. But much to this point, yeah, I mean, a lot of it's based for views and just, I guess, overall attention period, right?
Well, and sometimes people don't.
What's your guys' opinion? Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, sometimes people don't look back for that. So past that, right? So there is a place for catching people's attention, the sort of the lost leader, the pop, the Hollywood, occasionally to put that interest factor in, but that can't be the core of your material. And people a lot of times don't look past that, right? Because that's what caught their attention, and they go squirrel to the next one.
Yeah, and they expect they like this one, so they're definitely going to like this one, and they're riding off that high, and then like, oh, they didn't like it. It's like,
well, once again, let's get to the base. Why are we there? So I like the 3x3 matrix we use. Are you there for martial art? Are you there for martial sport? Are you there for martial combat? Self-defense is part of that combatives. Is your combative practical? Is it theatrical? Is it historical? I mean, because the theatrical, so my guy's doing movies, so he's doing theatrical combat. Is it historical stuff that may have been common, like the HEMA, the perfect example, the HEMA, are you fighting in the ring? Okay, there's no question that all the stuff from MMA can be applied. Bits and pieces of the ring stuff can be applied to the street.
Sure.
But they're not dealing with weapons in the ring.
No. Yeah, I mean, context is everything, right? Yes. But let me just see here. Yeah, I think that's fair.
People need to remember martial artists are subject to levels of force, just like a policeman. Yeah, there's a little different escalation factor there, but yes.
Oh, this guy's killing me today, and I'm not talking Eric. I'm talking Tier. Oh my God, he's driving me crazy.
Oh, your sidekick?
My four-legged co-host here.
There you go.
Yeah. So,
does he have any questions?
Yeah,
he's got a lot of questions. When are you going to feed me?
Be heard, so yeah.
That's right.
So what did you got here? Let me tell you this. This could maybe lead to a short, interesting conversation, because I know Ty's got some stuff going on for tomorrow. What's your guys' opinion on? Obviously, this has been brought up before on my episodes, and probably here maybe. the whole thing on let's look at recognition, reaction, recovery. Okay, so recognition. I recognize what's coming. I'm reacting to it. The recovery aspect is post strike. So I would ask the audience, when is recovery most important? Let's see what they come back with. They might have heard me on a past episode. So my students, don't answer if you're watching.
Right. No plants, please.
So let's just see if I'd be interested to see what they say, like on the aspect of recovery.
Right. But before we get to that, Brett's got a thing. We all must obey laws each and everywhere, so it's wise to know laws where you may stand. And local laws change a lot with respect to use of force and weapons and everything.
So when it comes to blades, just remember, it is county by county.
Yep.
It's not the state.
Where?
Oh, in New York.
Each county is city. Yeah, city. Yeah, gotcha. Okay. Because
so
not in Connecticut.
I'm in Erie County. The biggest thing is deployment. Actually, gravity knives have recently been legalized in New York State, but well, not this, but an assist or not a cam assist, switchblade stiletto, not. But gravity's been put back into play as of 2019, evidently. I mean, nunchucks are legal again.
Really? In New York?
Yeah, it's great because it helped my nunchuck sales. So,
oh, jeez.
Great thing for tournaments for kids, or actually great things for. It is a great tool
to
for
win,
kids
bring home,
to learn movements.
Yep.
Frank wants to say yes. It's all about local laws. Counties change everything. I'm in Suffolk, New York.
I had no idea. I knew about the city and all that. But I had no idea is most important. Let's see. Okay, recovery is most important after PG Mason has already hit me twice before I saw mine move. You can't argue that. I mean, yeah.
That was just our local guys.
So the see, I thought it was just city. I thought it was New York, and then city, of course, had the different. I didn't know Long Island.
County by county.
Wow.
I had a guy that had a kung fu. Well, it wasn't really a kung fu shop.
Yeah,
it was a knife shop in a mall that also taught kung fu.
Yeah.
And he would give grief by people all the time. Cops would stop by, and he goes, and the cop would like, well, it's supposed to be 4 inches. Go, no, it's all about deployment. It's not about the length. That's what she said.
See, in our state, it is like if you get caught carrying something over 4 inches, the blade, or if it's double edged, they can take it. Yeah, so that's relevant in our state, but we don't go by counties. It's just universal.
Is that by folding or
deployed? Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Matter of fact, it's pretty similar to what Rich is here saying. Yeah. Yeah. No longer 3.75, and yeah, absolutely. Yeah, very similar to what he's quoting as far as Michigan.
I'm talking and can't be heard because I'm wearing, because knucklehead here. So I think we covered a lot of good stuff here. I teach a firearm course. We spend 4 hours teaching what to do after.
Yeah, right. I'm sure those are great conversations. Yeah.
Nice.
And gravity blade.
It's the guillotine.
Yeah, guillotine. Yeah. Florida's a great place. You can
pretty much
carry anything. That in Texas. When I go to Texas, they actually ask me, "Do you have firearms?" And they no, they give me 2.
Yeah, just Florida's the great state of Florida. So, when you're leaving, Datu?
I'm sorry?
When are you leaving?
Leaving?
Leaving for abroad. Wednesday?
Yeah.
And you're there till how long?
I get back Tuesday night.
But yeah, don't worry. I'll reach out to you, and we'll definitely.
Hey, Sam, we're about to end the show.
Yeah. That would be so awesome to do. Definitely. I'll reach out to you back. Yeah.
Big Country. We'll listen to that as we go.
The big, we have to listen to their second album too, Steel Town, which I think was just as. But yeah, we'll have to listen to them while we're doing the going across the big water, right?
All right, so why don't we wrap things up here? We can always do a follow-up. What do you got coming up next? What's the next project or seminars that you got going here? Oh, here we go. Chip Cheerio.
Yeah. I'll go to England. That'll be fun. Next, okay, what's coming up? Yeah, so well, in October, I got a couple things.
And we're talking your martial arts, not having to do the Gray Matter show tomorrow night.
What's that?
I said your martial arts, not your Gray Matter. Your
Oh
Gray
yeah.
Matter show
No. Yeah. So in September, okay, I'm going to Hawaii, working the KI project with Burton. Then after that, when I get back, going the following weekend to Canada with Kevin Goat, that project I was telling you about, which will lead to the other project. And then October, seeing you guys in Salem, right? And then, so that's up to October. And a couple of things in November. Yeah, so pretty busy. Almost sometimes I'm wondering, like, too busy. It's been a little overwhelming. September is going to be like crazy. I'm like getting back and then going to Canada. So, but yeah. So that's pretty much it. So what was this from me to you? Your sign language was Datu.
Yeah, he's multitask probably. So actually, we touched a little bit of some of your concepts and things like that, which is good. So where can people go if they want to learn more about it, or how to get you to do something with them?
Yeah, they can reach. Yeah, so I get I've been getting a lot of queries, but I've been also very particular who I'm taking. So they're more than happy to reach out to me. Absolutely, depending on what their focus wants to be, the overall blade tech or Piper Medusa. Best thing to do would probably be Facebook Messenger. Yeah, but again, I am selective. I don't do this for my income, so I can afford to take who I want. Get rid of who I don't want. It's a very cohesive group. We have a private group on Facebook where videos are shared and such. But again, very cohesive. And it's just it's the way I really want it. I don't want something getting too big where it gets out of reach, tough to manage, don't know what they're doing. So, and wherever they are. And that's the last thing I want,
Out of control. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I want to over codify it because remember, the bigger you get, whether you like it or not, it's going to get codified.
Right.
The bigger you get, because you're going to have to, because they're going to all need to be doing the same damn thing. And this is so heavily based on attribute development, where there's no memorization. So that right there, it'll never happen because I don't want that's why I left some systems because they were over codified. So I would be such a hypocrite to let that happen and get into codifying. So
it's interesting. Yeah. There's a similarity there with I'll talk, and this will probably bring Tim back in, but there's the Blunt Talk, the ungroup method. It was scenario based, right? One-on-one teaching always because of that same reason, to make sure it's tailored to attribute development to fit that person.
Listen, you don't want a system. Okay, so first of all, it would be nice if we could beam over. I've said that many times, Brett. So you're preaching to the geek choir here. Listen, I've seen all the drills, all the stuff. At the end of the day, we want to become a master of martial arts, not missed opportunities. And sometimes when you do groupings, tappy, sombrada, hooput, and 3 of 9 and 7 of 12 and 36 of 48 or whatever. Whatever you're going, oh my God. And this, that, and the other thing. When you're such devoted to a drill, you're not working on what's actually happening. It's we don't want to be masters of missed opportunities.
Especially if the testing's based on memorization. I mean, then you have to do it. You have to. And that's the last thing. There's no memorization in my system.
In order to cover everything, you forget to go deep on everything.
Let me rephrase that. Outside of the triangles, know the damn triangles because they give context of what we do. Sure. But outside of the triangles,
there's elements that you have to memorize, but you don't live by the memorization.
Absolutely not. No. They're either going to put the work in or you're not going to do well in the system.
Wait a second. You're saying, let's see, are you saying do the work?
He just said do your work.
Imagine that. You actually have to, I actually need to see you doing the work.
Hey, I'm going to ask you a question here. because I'm that guy. And, so have you trained with people that didn't have a written program?
No words. When you say written program, upon being their student, they hand me a pamphlet of the curriculum.
Yeah.
Or do you mean, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. David Gold. One of
Okay.
my, yeah.
And have you decided to write your own syllabus of some sort off of something so you would not lose the material?
You know, and I don't want this to come across incorrectly or get misconstrued. This has been forming up here for 20 years. My first DVD 20 years ago. And so I have it so up here, it'll never get lost unless but for preservation's sakes, I guess for my son, I'm going to, yes, there you go. Yes, it'll be on paper. Yeah.
Well, because this has been something that came up the other day. So Remy had a shopping list of techniques, but we didn't have a written belted curriculum, a syllabus, the day-to-day thing. But I mean, didn't all these people who train with all these masters bring it back and write their own syllabus? Isn't that what we really did?
Yeah.
Our own map on how to get to that destination that our teachers showed us. It might come up on tomorrow night's show. Just saying.
Yes. Tomorrow night's show. Yes. 7 p.m.
FMA discussion, gray matter issues.
With
Dean Franco. Special guests, Master Rich Parson and Dan Anderson.
The gray area matters. Should be interesting. But Rich is going to be there, and I'm so happy because he's got a chance to be heard and come on the show. So I think that's going to be really neat. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, so let's wrap things up here. We're going to take you out. Just hold on a moment because we'll do a quick, the post show. So
yeah, and again, I just want to say, obviously, thank you both for bringing me on. You could have had numerous people you could have brought on, so I appreciate that. And thank you for
you're
the
fun to
audience,
have on.
That watched, and so a big thank you to you guys. Thank you.
Okay, and then Rich says thank you for the invite and the opportunity.
Oh my gosh, absolutely, Rich. I just hope tomorrow. I wonder if he's still going to say that after tomorrow.
He knows who he's dealing with. He knows exactly who he's dealing with.
I just hope he has it.
And if that person's listening in right now, I'm just going to let you know, I'll be listening in on the whole show.
I just want him to enjoy the experience.
During the class, unfortunately, I have to teach at 7:00.
Yeah,
but I'll have this on with this.
Oh no, he's gonna be teaching, walking around,
and writing notes because if I hear anything,
no, I meant angle one. He's gonna be walking.
I'm gonna be sitting there like, no, yeah, damn you. Oh, I mean, yeah. Like, but if I hear some things, I was like, well, wait a minute, I don't recall that being that way.
Hey, people are allowed to comment as long as it's respectful and all that. I mean,
hey, wait a minute, people comment here all day long. Look at that, honor to listen. We like that.
You know what I mean?
And so I'll be listening, and if I hear something that I have a question on, I'll be more than happy to send that question your guys' way.
Yeah, well, I think it's fair for people to remember that ask, right? So is a question an attack? Not necessarily, but if you think it is, check first because it might not.
Here's the thing, you know what I mean? Criticism or critique,
right?
You know what I mean? Just because I'm asking doesn't mean I'm criticizing. I could be critiquing, right? I really want to generally know what you're doing or what you mean. You know what I mean?
Yep. And that's not necessarily a critique or why I would never do it that way. Is there something I'm missing?
Right.
And maybe there is.
You're not criticizing. You're just kind of critiquing you've been exposed to, and you're asking the question about it. Yeah.
Yeah, so if we can all watch it live tomorrow, then you can all ask questions of Dean to feed the panel to see if you have any questions on anything there.
You know what it is. I usually get a few in, but I get it. People jump in and they kind of ask on the fly. It's the way it is.
Yep.
Are you jumping? You're gonna be gone tomorrow, correct? You're flying to
No, I leave Wednesday, so I get to listen to the show.
No, I know that, but is Ty going to be traveling? Are you traveling tomorrow, Ty?
Oh, yeah, I just have an early morning meeting that I got to.
Oh, so you might be. So are you?
I'll be back at it. I'll
Will
be
you
back.
be a spectator?
Maybe.
Hey, what do you got? You got a serious question for us, Renee, or are you just general? Just making it. And FK, the powers that can't correct intention or spelling for years.
Years on end.
Nice.
Okay. All right. So,
people shouldn't be such
so
offend.
Hey, if you want to be offended, it's really easy to do that. I don't know why you'd waste your time, but yeah, sure, you can be offended all day long if you want to.
once again, well, listen. Oh yeah. How's blind fund? How's the blind fund going?
Blind fund.
I don't know. So, listen, we shouldn't be afraid of the truth.
Yep.
We should be willing to have a dialogue, not a monologue. This is why we have people on our show. This is why we read the questions. Thank God that my dog can't talk really for real. So who knows what he'd be saying?
So who knows what would come out of that mouth? All the episodes he's been exposed to.
Yeah. He'd be blackmailing me as I complain about the world. But, listen, if you put yourself out there, you got to be prepared to answer questions. Simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. Like, if you want all the accolades and all this, well, you better be prepared to take some of the question marks and perhaps maybe some of the unpleasant, questions, or not so much in the accolade department. Yeah. So.
Okay. All right. Well, let's. I'm going to take you out, Dean, and then hold on. We'll finish up our show, and then we'll do our post.
Sounds good. Again, thanks to everybody.
Hey, thanks for coming on board, brother.
Yeah.
Okay, so really good show. You know what? I really appreciate Dean's approach on what he was talking about. I mean, because he really, it's not just about knife fighting. There's a lot more to it.
Right.
There's multiple layers there. It's like that onion, just not as stinky. Doesn't make my eyes water. There was a lot of depth there.
Yep.
And if you listen to the show, if you came in late, listen to the show. Because there's a lot of good pieces in there, a lot of learning opportunities. And then I told the FMA community that they don't know what they're doing. But anyways, as I always do, and take it with a grain of salt, because who says I know what I'm doing?
It's true, though. Actually, most of any larger community don't know what they're doing. So it's a fair comment.
Okay. So we're off next week because I'll be in Merrifield, England.
Yeah, where in England?
Exeter. So I guess we're south of.
Yep.
So this is my second time to Exeter. I've been to Plymouth too. So where I went to the Plymouth Steps where they got on the ships to go to Plymouth Rock. So that was kind of cool. So I'll be teaching at the Gathering on Sunday. I might be doing something Monday as well.
Nice.
Another thing. Then, but the same weekend, this weekend, you're teaching.
This weekend I'm teaching.
Come on, you're killing me.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, that's the annual East Coast FMA gathering. Yeah, that the Chrysostomos put together.
Yeah, and then Mr. Wolf is doing a class at his place in Mount Gilead, Ohio. So the WMA has 3 seminars going on the same weekend, covering as much territory as possible.
Have third of the globe or something like that.
We could tell us that. No one's going to believe it. I don't even know if I believe that, but that's okay.
I have to do the angle of the latitudes.
There you go.
Longitudes, I mean.
But I think this is a good thing. And then so we'll be back. So the 19th, so the following weekend, I do my Panantukan Part 2. And then Ty's going to be here for that. And then the Monday, we're going to do a deep dive into modern arnis, the 21st. So we've already discussed the art within your art. We're past that. And we're looking forward to hearing some good stuff with this. Listen, remember, that was a marketing gimmick motto, because in the Philippines it was called modern arnis, not the art within your art.
Right. It was the art that he got into schools. He got into a lot of things. Yep.
And the cool thing was, if you didn't get a chance, go to worldmodernarnis.com or wmarnis.com. If you haven't already seen it, I have a blog post on Modern Arnis as a standalone program. I also have our first feature instructor up there as well, which is Professor Talas from Brazil.
Awesome.
It officially releases on Thursday, but I put it up early because I'll be in England. So, but let me just share this real quick, and then we're gonna wrap it up. So, I'll shoot the window, do the window there. So, right here, if you go to the website, we have our blog posts. These are the 4 most current. You can go get older ones here, and we talk about reflecting of Balintawak, the next chapter of modern age, the future generations, talking about getting away from doing reunion camps and doing more development. This is about Professor Tallis. And then right here is Modern East, more than just the art within your art. And I was very pleasantly surprised when Modern East Philippines actually shared it.
Yep, that was good.
So that was nice. That was very nice of them to share some of my my writings.
That's is that largely Jim Bambit's group?
It's probably Jim Bambit, yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
Maddie's his organization. So,
yep.
But we talked about how Professor developed one hell of a martial arts system, very rich in material, and we should be right on point being able to do this as standalone. We, as modernist practitioners, we deserved a seat at the big person's table. Mm-hmm. This is not just because a lot of people did it as a secondary, tertiary system, because they weren't concerned on learning the art. They just wanted to cross-train a little. That's fine. But we're going to do the deep dive on what's actually in the art and how in depth that actually is.
Then
we're going to do something special the week after that. We'll talk about that later. So listen, we've talked about the seminars. Do you have any other gigs coming up besides that? Just next weekend, and then you're up in Buffalo the weekend after that.
Yeah, and then after that, I'm in Pennsylvania for the family gathering thing. Professor Aaron.
And then we got to figure out what your event is going to be. When's it going to be?
I got to do that. I'm going to do that before the month is out. How's that?
Okay. And then first weekend in November, Bobby Tabuada's 75th birthday event. Right. We are going. Ty's going. I'm going to be going. Boom.
Yep.
Would love to see a bunch of you down there. Maybe we can get him on the show and talk about it.
Already said. You know who's going to be there as well?
Boom.
Coach Narza.
Oh my God.
That'll be great. Yeah.
That'll be great.
Yeah. There's a few other people too. Dan Medina, and I forget who else, but those are the.
That's always good. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
All right. Well, listen, as always, everybody, please stay sane and stay safe. This is Datu Tim.
And BG Ty. Take care, everyone.
See you all soon.